So what I wanted to be able to do is just to take a moment as we go into lunch here to be able to give a sense of, we've done a lot this morning in terms of trying to help inform ways of thinking, inform ways we should be perceiving technology. And so what I wanted to be able to do, because in particular, what our organization, FiberCorps, is interested in, is what's laying beyond the horizon when it comes to technology. What's out there that we should be starting to be aware of, so that we can start looking at what is the toolkit of technology going to look like a couple years down the road, so that we can start using that to inform our thinking now of what kinds of things would we want to see in the community. Sometimes we limit ourselves to only think about what's available to us today, but we're really at this amazing point in time where there's a lot of stuff that is right on the cusp of being able to become a reality. And so I want to take you guys through a highlight, not of the full works of that, but just through 4 primary categories that help kind of frame some of the thinking of what some of these tools and categories of tools are that you're going to be able to have access to in the near future. And hopefully here in Lafayette, we're going to be able to have access to these technologies first before the rest of the country. So the first one to talk about is the concept of networked computing. In the most basic sense, you can think about it, it used to be your computer was just your computer and that was it. Then it came around this thing called the internet and this ability to network your computer with other people. Well, we're only seeing the beginning stages of what that can mean. What happens when that box that you have is connected out into the rest of the world, into all these additional resources? Because there's a lot of things that can happen once you're connected in that way. One of them is being able to augment your capabilities of what your machine is actually able to do in and of itself. Anyone who's worked with any higher-end creative applications, whether it's Photoshop, photo editing, HD video editing, 3D modeling, things like that, you know that sometimes when you're trying to go through your creative process, you have to wait. You have to sit there, you have to push the button, and it's going to render, it's going to do something where you're not able to keep creating. You're basically waiting at that point. And that slows you down. That slows down your ability to continue focusing on what matters, which is that creative aspect. Well, once you're moving into a networked computing world, what that opens up is the possibility, like what we're doing, one of the projects we're working on with FiberCorps is building a 3D render farm over at Light that's going to tap into Karen Crowe High School and the Academy of Information Technology up there. Right now, the kids, when they're trying to do 3D modeling, when they want to render, add moving grass or hair or anything that's a little more advanced, they basically have to push the button and then sit and wait. They're not learning during that period of time. They're just waiting for the computer to process. They also wipe the computers each night as a school system, so they can't let the jobs run overnight. As a result, the kids are stuck doing very low-level types of 3D modeling and animation. They're not able to do that higher-order level. Well, with this render farm connected over fiber to Light, the kids will be able to just drag the job over. It'll be sent over the fiber to the computers over at Light. It'll get rendered, and then they can pull the job back and keep working, keep learning, keep moving up. Over time, we'd love to be able to evolve it to be able to do so. At this point, we wanted to focus on one particular pilot in one particular use case. But we're very much, I'd love to be able to talk afterwards about the possibilities of expanding that, because ultimately, what we could look at in the world is, what if we had a giant pool of computing resources in the community that you could hook into to have extra processing power when you were doing your applications, and having that be just a very seamless way that you're able to operate. Now you're no longer limited by the power of the computer in front of you. You essentially have access to a supercomputer, or that kind of power, no matter where you are and what you're hooked into. Network computing also is offering up opportunities to replace those traditional desktop applications. All those things that you saw in the morning, the music and that extra normal video that we did, those are all created in a browser. You're able to edit video in your browser, edit photos in your browser, create 3D models in your browser. You don't need desktop applications anymore. You don't necessarily need to go spend a lot of money and deal with a big piece of software. You're able to do it all through a browser, and therefore you're, in theory, able to do it from anywhere in the world. You don't even need your computer anymore. As long as you have access to a computer, you have access to the tools that you need to be able to be creative. It's also, the world of network computing is working to evolve what these can mean. So what you're seeing is applications that aren't just about taking and helping you edit video. It's about being able to take and edit video collaboratively with other people. It's being able to take content from a variety of different sources and have it right at your fingertips. It's about being able to kind of break down, it's no longer about music and video and graphic design and that. These walls are breaking down between these different areas of creativity, and there are tools that are creating entirely new capabilities to be able to enable you to create media that never existed before, that you couldn't do before in that way. I keep doing this to myself here. You gotta stop hitting the control button. Okay. Another category, which is one that I'm very excited about and I think has a lot of interesting implications, is the idea of super high definition. So a lot of people, there's a lot of excitement, or maybe it's not that new anymore, but having HD quality video over Blu-ray, or increasingly being able to get it with your online video. Well, it's important to know that HD video is not that top end. We actually have a lot more evolutionary leaps that we're going to be able to take in the next few years. There's something called Quad HD video, 4 times the resolution of HD. You're going to start seeing it in movie theaters pretty soon here. There's also something called Ultra HD. It is 16 times the resolution of HD video. Now, so what that means is it's going to give you an experience that it's like 3D, but without special glasses. It's going to literally be like you've got a piece of glass and you're standing on the other side of the piece of glass from somebody. And that's something that's going to be happening within the next 10 years. It'll take a while for the whole ecosystem to fully flesh out, and it's the standard way that we do business. But this is not some sci-fi, it'll happen in the indefinite future. This is something that you're going to start, they already have technology that can do this today. You're going to start seeing commercial technologies in the next 5 years. And within the next 10 years, it's my estimate that this is going to start, if not already becoming commonplace, it'll be well on its way towards being able to do that. The other big thing that's going to be driving this is this idea of ubiquity, because another big trend that's happening, in addition to having higher quality video that you can capture and show, is having screens that can be anywhere. There's a technology called e-paper. It's actually kind of a whole class of technologies, where ultimately in the next, arguably the next 5 years, you're going to be able to print a screen as cheap as you print paper. So that means a lot of interesting things. It means screens are going to be everywhere, for one. Now, some of it's not altogether necessarily going to be good, because that means that your cereal boxes are going to be blinking at you and saying, come eat me, which is going to be a little, there'll be some downsides to that. The upside, though, is that what your computing experience is going to be is that you're going to go and your computer is going to be your wall. You're going to go touch your wall and your whole computer is going to turn on. And when you're talking to someone else through a video conference, it's not a small picture that's choppy or this and that. It's your whole wall, and it's like you're standing on the other side of a piece of glass from somebody. And what's interesting is that when you get into that kind of level, it becomes the kind of thing whereby you're able to get value beyond just having higher quality video, because there's a lot of data in that video and a lot of things you can do with the video beyond simply just showing that video back and forth. For example, one of the things you're able to do is start looking at actually pulling 3D models out of video. So if you have a couple of camera angles on a particular scene, like say security cameras, the security cameras that we have around the downtown for Festival International. Well, in theory, if you've got high enough quality cameras and you've got enough processing power, you could take those different video streams, combine them together, and create a 3D model of Festival International on the fly, and be able to get additional information. There's also one of the things that came out recently, and this one's admittedly a little creepy, but there has been some research that they've just found that there's the potential that they're going to be able to make your iPhone see through walls by being able to interpret a whole different level of spectrum that they had never really tapped into before. So there's kind of all these interesting things that can be done, and video has a lot of implications beyond just watching TV, because ultimately I believe that video is going to be our dominant mode of communicating with each other moving on in the future. And the more we're able to get it higher resolution, get it more ubiquitous, the more it can be seamlessly integrated into our lives in that way. Then that brings up, the high definition of video is also going to be incredibly big for the area of collaboration and collaboration tools. There's a bunch of interesting things happening, and when you start looking out trying to look out beyond the horizon a bit, what happens when your ability to collaborate with other creatives, with other people who are within your sphere that you want to be working with, is able to be done seamlessly? So there's a lot that you can do to collaborate with people today, but it's not necessarily easy to do. You may have one application to collaborate one way, you've got another application to collaborate another way. Everyone has to have the same application. Everyone has to have the same kind of level of technical wherewithal and all that. And so it's limited. But in the future, we're going to be able to get to a point where it is seamless and, to skip ahead, universal in that kind of way, where it is expected that this is the way we operate. Where you won't even think about the fact that you're going to go jump onto your computer, which may be that wall or maybe a more traditional kind of computer, and you're seamlessly collaborating through these tools. Where, for example, one example of something that's out on the horizon is there have been some initial tests being done over this advanced internet research backbone, where they're actually editing 4K video, which is also that quad HD, so very high resolution, very big files, where they had the director, the color guy, and the editor all in different places around the world. And the computers that were being used to render the video was in another place around the world. and they were all connected at 10 gigabits per second, working in real time, in that way. In a totally seamless kind of environment. That's the kind of thing that at this point is still more on the research side of the equation. There's things being done where you can have 50-person video conferences to be able to have these kinds of discussions going on. They are still primarily in the more research kind of world, but anything that's happening in the research world today within the next 5 years is something we're going to be able to enjoy ourselves. And it's something that I think we need to start thinking about. How do these capabilities change the nature of what it is we do and how we actually end up doing it? And then the dynamic references to those capabilities that I was talking about, where if you're able to go in and you're working on a program and you're struggling with using the technology in some way, what if you could just click a button and you were automatically connected with somebody else who was an expert in that technology and who could walk you through the process, who could take over your screen and be able to do that? These capabilities exist today. I'm not saying they don't necessarily exist, but to get it to the point where it becomes embedded into the very way that we operate, it's going to open up a lot of interesting possibilities. And finally, an example of collaboration, this is kind of a newer concept out there, is the idea of crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing, for anyone who's not familiar with the concept, is basically the idea of there's a lot of time where there's these kind of bigger jobs or bigger challenges that you want to take on that may be a little overwhelming as an individual person. But if you're able to tap into the power of the network, the power of all these people being connected through the internet, through social networks and the like, that you're able to crowdsource, leverage the power of that crowd, whether it's to be able to come up with the best answer to a question, whether it's to take a big project, break it up into little pieces, and each one takes their little piece, so it's not all on one person to be able to do. So what happens in the future where this concept of crowdsourcing, which is gaining a lot of traction, but is still a little bit of an outlier? It's not like everyone in this room is involved in crowdsourcing today. Well, what happens when that becomes commonplace? Where everyone is familiar with this concept and everyone is in a lean forward approach towards, hey, I want to be able to be a part of something that's crowdsourced because it's a fun experience to be able to collaborate with my peers, to be able to produce something that goes beyond what I could produce in and of myself. What if also, I put the word intentional up there because a lot of what's crowdsourcing happen right now is you have your idea and you throw it out to the crowd at large. But what happens if you've got everyone engaged with this process? Well, now you're able to crowdsource not to just a large general purpose audience. You're able to have targeted crowdsourcing. So whatever it is that your needs are for your particular project, you've got a network of people that you're easily able to tap into. So it's not just about tapping into computing resources, it's also being able to tap into human resources in that way as well. And then taking that to the next level, if we've got that level of confidence in crowdsourcing as a mechanism, then that can start becoming a foundational way in which we operate. Things that you're seeing happening with Kickstarter that we're going to be able to explore later this afternoon. One of the stats I thought was crazy is that this past year, Kickstarter had, and for anyone who's not familiar, Kickstarter is a place where you can go put up your project and basically raise money for your project before you get the project off the ground, and we'll get into some more details this afternoon. But last year, there was more money that went through Kickstarter than went through the National Endowment for the Arts. That's a foundational thing right there, right? So what happens when that becomes the way you get your product to market? You don't go and create something in a vacuum, bring it to market and hope people buy it. You come up with your concept, you get people to start buying it before you even start the work. So you're able to have a baseline of money coming in to be able to fund whatever your project is, and you're able to reduce your risk for investing and being able to pull something off like that. So these are just some of the examples of categories of technology and giving you hopefully a little bit of a sense, a little glimpse beyond the horizon of what this can look like. And what's crazy about this is that these were seeds that were planted long ago. I'm not necessarily talking about anything that you necessarily even haven't heard of before. If nothing else, we've all watched movies. Science fiction has been out ahead of us for decades, showing what the possibilities are of this technology. The problem was we didn't have the actual capability to go and realize what seemed like science fiction at the time. Well, now we're seeing these seeds start to sprout. All these concepts that we've had for decades are now starting to become reality in a variety of different forms. Some are becoming very mature and becoming already integral into the day-to-day lives of a lot of people, some of whom have been on the stage earlier today, and many of which are in our research corporate and university research labs that are just waiting to come to market, that are waiting to find a place to be able to get into the real world and show off the benefits of what these technology can be. So the question really just comes down to who wants to be the people to nurture these technologies? Because there is an advantage to being those first people to get out there, get your hands on the technology, figure out how to build expertise, and then you get to drive the creation of that technology. You get to drive the creation of industries around that technology as well. And so we really are hoping that some of what we're doing here this morning and throughout this day is to help get people thinking out ahead a little bit and say, you know what? I want to be a leader. I want to be someone who can be an innovator in the use of this technology. And for anyone who's got that kind of mindset, FiberCorps is here as an organization to help support you all in being able to go after that challenge. So thank you all very much.